against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Cool thing, dude.
Navy pilot's close encounter with a UFO. The Pentagon now wants to know what these objects are.
Against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Cool thing, dude. That's not LNS though, is it? It's not. It is LNS, dude. Well, if there's another thing, it's rotating.
There are some that say that there's a lot of the black money that has gone into this. They could be ours, they could be man-made vehicles, aircraft. The Pentagon mysterious UFO program, though, wants to see what's behind this. In the $600 billion annual Defense Department budget, $22 million spent on advanced aerospace threat identification program was somehow impossible to find, which was how the Pentagon wanted it. And for years, the program investigated reports of unidentified flying objects, the UFOs. According to Department of Defense officials, interviews with program participants and records obtained by New York Times. This is a New York Times article. It was run by military intelligence official Luis Elizondo. He was on the 5th floor of the Pentagon Sea Ring, deep within the building's maze. Department of Defense has never before acknowledged the existence of this program, which it says shut down in 2012. However, backers say that while the Pentagon ended funding for the effort at that time, that the program still existed, and that for the past years since then, the officials of the program have continued to probe episodes that brought them to service members while also carrying out other Defense Department duties. Shadow programs, parts of it remains classified. Began in 2007. Initially, it was largely funded by at the request of Harry Reid, the Nevada Democrat who was the Senate Majority Leader at that time, and who has long had interest in, of course, UFOs, anything having to do with space phenomena. So most of the money went to an aerospace research company run by a billionaire, and he was a friend of Harry Reid. His name is Robert Bigelow, who is supposedly working with NASA to produce expandable craft for humans to use in space. In CBS's 60 Minutes, Mr. Bigelow said he was absolutely convinced that aliens exist and that UFOs have visited the Earth. He's talking about, of course, extraterrestrial UFOs, space aliens and the like. Working with Bigelow, Las Vegas-based company, the program produced documents, and they described the sightings of aircraft that seemed to be moving at very high speeds, and they had no visible signs of propulsion. They were using technology that was nothing that we know of at this point in time. They were hovering without any apparent means of lifting, and they were going at phenomenal speeds. Now, to look at them, as you see the video, I mean, this is very slow compared to them. Some of them whiz around like at the speed of a thought, and it's still unbelievable for us when we see this. Now, officials with the program also studied videos of encounters between UFOs and American military aircraft, including the one released in August of this whitish oval object about the size of a commercial plane. It was chased by two Navy FA 18 fighter jets from the carrier Nimitz off the coast of San Diego in 2004. Harry Reid, who retired from Congress recently, said he was proud of the program. He says, "I'm not embarrassed or ashamed or sorry. I got this thing going," he said. He said, "I think it's one of the good things I did in my congressional service. I've done something that no one has done before." Two other former senators and top members of Defense Spending Committee, Ted Stevens, an Alaskan Republican, and Daniel K. Inouye in Hawaii, a Hawaiian Democrat, also supported the program. Mr. Stevens passed away in 2010, Mr. Inouye in 2012. While not addressing the benefits of the program, Sarah Seeger, an astrophysicist at MIT, was careful in saying that not knowing the origin of an object does not mean that it is from another planet or galaxy. When people claim to observe truly unusual craft, unusual phenomena, sometimes it's worth investigating seriously. What people sometimes don't get about science is that we often have phenomena that remain unexplained. Now, okay, what does she want to say? That it's not intelligently maneuvered. Maybe it's a phenomena of physics, like, for example, these weird light orbs that we see hovering above Earth before an earthquake or after an earthquake. Yeah, but these things here seem to be intelligently controlled. Now, James Oberg, former NASA space shuttle engineer, author of 10 books on spaceflight, who is, of course, known for debunking UFO sightings, was also doubtful. He says there are plenty of prosaic events and human perceptual traits that can account for these stories. Lots of people are active in the air and don't want others to know about it. They are happy to lurk unrecognized in the noise or even to stir it up as camouflage. Oberg said he welcomed research. He says there could well be a pearl there. So in answering questions from the Times, Pentagon officials acknowledged the existence of the program, which began as part of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and they insisted that the effort had ended after 5 years in 2012. They said it was determined that there were other higher priority issues that merited funding, and it was in the best interest of the DoD to make a change. Thomas Crossan, Pentagon spokesman, said, and however, Mr. Elizondo said the only thing that had ended was the government's funding, which dried up in 2012. From then on, Elizondo said in the interview he worked with officials from the Navy and the CIA. He continued to work out of his Pentagon office until when he resigned to protest what he characterized as excessive secrecy and internal opposition. He says, why aren't we spending more time and effort on this issue? This is what he told in his resignation letter to Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. Elizondo said that the effort continued and that he had a successor whom he declined to name. UFOs have been repeatedly investigated over decades in the U.S., including by the American military. In 1947, the Air Force began a series of studies investigating more than 12,000 claimed UFO sightings before it was ended. It was supposed to have ended in 1969. The project included a study codename Project Blue Book, started in 1952, concluded the most sightings involving stars, clouds, conventional aircraft, spy planes, although 701 still remained unexplained. Robert Siemens, Jr., Secretary of Air Force at that time, said in a memo announcing the end of Project Blue Book that it, quote, no longer can be justified either on the ground of national security or in the interest of science. Reid said his interest in UFOs came from Bigelow. In 2007, Reid said Mr. Bigelow told him that an official with the Defense Intelligence Agency approached him wanting to visit Mr. Bigelow's ranch in Utah, where the research was conducted. Reid said he met with agency officials shortly after the meeting with Bigelow and learned that they wanted to start a research program on UFOs. Reid then summoned Stevens and Inouye to secure room in the Capitol. Reed said, referring to the astronaut and former senator from Ohio, John Glenn, who died in 2016, Mr. Reed said, had told him he thought that the federal government should be looking seriously into UFOs and should be talking to military service members, especially pilots who had reported seeing such aircraft they couldn't identify or explain. Sightings were not often reported up the military chain of command because service members were afraid they'd be laughed at or stigmatized. Meetings with Stephen and Inouye, Reed said, was one of the easiest meetings I had ever had. Stephen said, I've been waiting to do this since I was in the Air Force. The Alaska senator had been a pilot in the Army's Air Force flying transport missions over China during World War II. During the meeting, Reed said Stevens recounted being tailed by a strange aircraft with no known origin, which he said had followed his plane for miles. None of the three senators wanted the public debate on the Senate floor about the funding of the program. Reed said this was so-called black money. He says Stephen knows about it, Inouye knows about it, but that was it, and that's how we wanted it, Reed said, referring to the Pentagon budget for classified programs. The funding went to Golet company, $22 million, beginning late 2018 through 2011. Bigelow Aerospace hired subcontractors and solicited research for the program, and under Bigelow's direction, the company modified buildings in Las Vegas for the storage of metal alloys and other materials that Elizondo and program contractors said had been recovered from unidentified aerial phenomena. They also studied people who they said had experienced physical effects from encounters with objects and examined them for any physiological changes. Reed decided that the program had made such extraordinary discoveries that he argued for heightened security to protect it. Now, for his part, Reed said he did not know where the objects had come from. He says if anyone says they have answers now, they're fooling themselves. We don't know. But he said we have to start someplace. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.